Good evening. My name is Kelly Young. I'm the chair of the school board for the WSESD. I want to thank everyone. I want to welcome everyone from the public, the administration, the Superintendent Spino for being here on the public forum regarding lifting the mask mandate. I want to thank everyone for being here either in person or in Zoom based on your own personal needs. And for all those who took the time to reach out to members of the school board to express your concerns and opinions. I want to thank Superintendent Spino.
No.
Yes.
They were learning about Texas history, John. They saying that. Yeah.
You're going to sing it.
No, I just can't.
Welcome to technology. The format of the meeting is anticipated to be Mr. Spino will be given an opportunity to present information to the public. Following this, members of the public will be given the opportunity to speak. Each speaker will be given 2 minutes with about 15-second warning. Sean will stand up and let you know that your time is coming to an end. The expectation is that this forum will remain civil and respectful. The pandemic has been challenging for everyone. Whether you agree with masks, whether you don't agree with masks, whether you agreed with remote learning, you didn't agree with it, it's been challenging for everyone. And those who hold views differing from our neighbors, friends, families, parents, and other students. We are all whole community members. We may not agree on what should be done, but we are all trying to do what we feel is best for our students, families, and community. I welcome Mr. Spino to make his presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, and thank you for coming out tonight. Over the past 3 years, educators and students have had to adjust and respond to the many challenges of this pandemic. March of 2020, we were sent home on guidance of health officials, and we had to figure out a remote platform overnight. We did that. Leaders and educators did that. School year 2020-21, we had to rebuild our school system. We built a combination of in-person schools balanced with remote schools. Schools had to partner to pull this off. We did that as leaders and educators. We did that as a response to guidance from health professionals. Summer of 2021, masks went away. Not for long. In the first week of August, I communicated to the community that masks would be required to start the school year following the guidance of our health professionals. It wasn't a popular decision for everyone, but it was based on health guidance. Throughout this incredibly difficult school year, I have announced many changes to how we have been navigating this pandemic. Announcements to wear masks, announcements to contact trace, announcements to change in how we contact trace, announcements in regards to surveillance testing, a shift to test to stay, another shift to test at home. We stopped contact tracing because it wasn't healthy for our nurses and principals to be giving up their weekends, which they did for 2 months. All of these decisions have been made by me in collaboration with our COVID coordinators, school nurses, and administrative team. We made all of these decisions for our school union. All of these decisions were and have been made based on the guidance from the state and the health department. Every decision has come with a level of criticism. That's okay. That comes with leadership. March 3rd, Governor Scott announced the new guidance for Vermont. In lieu of this announcement, I met with our COVID coordinator and district leadership team. We chose to follow the guidance, and I reported this on March 4th to our school community, following the exact same pattern of decision-making chosen from the start. Last week, we made a concerted effort to work with our students on this transition. I understand that shifting to mask optional is not popular for everyone, and I understand those concerns and completely respect those concerns. I do believe we can work with students and families that need accommodations. That's what we do. That's what we've always done. That's what we do because we love our children. Thank you for coming out tonight. I believe our COVID coordinator has a statement as well, Kelly.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Julia Duke. I'm the nurse at Green Street School, and I'm also the COVID coordinator for our district. As COVID coordinator for the school district and as a representative of the nurses in our district, I can say that we as nurses understand that the topic of masks being optional at school is a complicated one that comes with questions, fears, reservations, and for others, a sigh of relief. We recognize that masks becoming optional was going to be based on 80% vaccine rates of eligible students at schools, and then was not. Lifting the mask wearing mandate at school was inevitable, and for many people, the announcement came too soon, and for others, not soon enough. We support those who would continue to wear a mask because of their own risk factors or those of a family member. As nurses in our public schools, we rely on the decision-making of experts in healthcare at both the Vermont Department of Health and the Pediatrician Task Force that advises the Agency of Education. We have adopted guidance from these experts for our schools for the past 2 years. The latest decision about masks becoming optional at school is not about whether or not mask works. It's about moving forward. COVID cases are becoming low in our community, and we have reached a time when we are once again readjusting our response to the pandemic. Once the CDC and then the governor of Vermont and then the AOE announced that masks would be optional at schools, it made the most sense to align with these announcements. Knowing that we have ready access to testing, knowing that our COVID numbers are lower. And knowing that our students will benefit from consistent messaging about what is happening in our community and at school. Our consulting pediatrician, Dr. Liz Richards, is in agreement that we are at a time that we can go mask optional at school, and we respect her medical expertise. Our most important responsibility remains staying home when we have symptoms, and we rely on parents to continue to be diligent in keeping their children home when they are sick. We are in a very fortunate position to have access to both rapid tests and PCR tests. And all staff will continue to have access to twice-weekly rapid testing. If COVID cases in our schools or community rise, we will respond by wearing masks again. When we develop COVID guidelines for our schools, we do so thoughtfully and in collaboration between nurses, the health department, principals, and the superintendent. We meet after school hours and are dedicated to providing the best health guidance that we can, with many factors in consideration and towards the goal of students being able to access education and social wellness at school. My biggest ask is that there is a decision on mask wearing in schools sooner than later. Our students need us to have a clear plan and to be resolute in our guidance. Thank you.
I don't think so.
So if anyone on the board would like to speak, you're welcome to do so now.
Am I going? I feel like I'm a little unclear on if this is information or for comments. I thought we were having an informative meeting, and I wanted to thank our administrative team. That was the missing piece I felt personally as a parent with 4 school-age children, to not see the guidelines until Friday and not have any opportunity to communicate with my teachers and my principal. I'm sorry, I did not receive those guidelines as a parent. It came in my mail at 1:25. So my first time that I saw those guidelines were my children brought them to my attention. And I found, excuse me, you need to not speak. That's how it works. My name is Michelle Green. Sorry, thank you for pointing that out. I'm very surprised that anybody would argue or have a problem with me giving gratitude for the opportunity to receive information from the school district on Friday and be able to process the information and reach out to my teachers and my principals so that I know how my child would be supported in their school environment. I think that is on policy H1 and H2, and it's in our mission statement. So I am grateful that we paused and respected those guidelines that we are all agreed to follow. My only question, you just mentioned, and I was so glad to hear it, is that, of course, we want to accommodate those who would wear masks. I think that really the only question here, for me personally, is that we have an obligation to oversee a safe environment for our students. We do have children. There will be children who choose for their own reasons and for families who feel safe. But then we have students who have medical necessity. And I'm not clear. I've gotten some information ahead of time, and I've been really grateful for being able to send my questions in and get feedback from our COVID coordinator. I want to understand, I suppose, the qualifications of risk. If we have students that are high risk in which it's indicated for them to wear masks, in what ways will we be accommodating them so that they have, for the children who are younger, it wouldn't be developmentally appropriate for them to independently take on that responsibility? In what ways will we be able to assure, just like we would make sure a child put their coat on to go out at recess, that those children will have those needs met? And also, in the case where it is a high-risk student, will we be making accommodations around other mitigation factors, such as giving them, a space for eating, a meal or something like that? Those are really, I feel like, that's when I'm honing in on the rules that in our guidelines. It is to ensure safe learning environment. So how will we be accommodating the needs of our high-risk students where mask wearing is indicated? Thank you.
Any other member of the board who would like to speak?
Oh, we're not getting answers tonight? There's no one that could speak to that from administration? That would be helpful information.
We will continue to follow the guidance of health officials, local and state guidance.
So just to be clear then, so if state guidance is that high-risk individuals should wear a mask in public, we will be accommodating those students with appropriate mitigation and mask wearing?
Yes.
That's what we're hearing. So if
Okay,
children who are
okay.
so younger children who are too young to oversee that, we will have like individualized plans and accommodations will be those needs.
Any students who are known to have immunocompromised or who are at high risk for medical reasons are already well known to the nurses and to the people at their school, and accommodations are at the ready.
Do we have? Can we?
And just
For each speaker to identify themselves, please, for the folks on Zoom.
This is Julia Duke, the COVID coordinator. And also, we did a survey recently to know what is the percentage of high-risk, medically high-risk individuals in our schools. And it's very, 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 very low.
Is our staffing, have they identified these families, or are the families expected to reach out to staff to make sure that those accommodations will be met?
Okay.
Will there be an individualized
Okay.
plan?
Any
Okay.
child who is medically high risk is already well known to the nurses.
I'm
and
sorry,
the team.
every child who is high
Okay.
risk is known? Or most of them?
Okay,
Every
I think we're
child
gonna-
who is medically at risk is already known.
okay, I think you've answered the question. Thank you, Michelle, for,
Okay.
so. Thank you. I think, Lana, did you?
I actually just wanted to, and I'm literally trying to be very clear just about staying within the scope of our response. I'm a board member actually that we're allowed to speak.
Okay.
Are we sticking
need
to
to
our 2
return to civility. I realize this is a tense issue for many people. It's an emotional issue, and that's totally understandable. We need to, in order to move forward so that people can, I want as many people to be able to speak as possible on any opinion, whatever your opinion is on it. So Michelle, one more very quick question, and I mean, if you.
I am, we're not making
Michelle,
public comments.
Michelle, just.
Okay, so my only other concern, I have to say, and I feel very comfortable with following the guidelines of the Agency of Health and Education and the plan that we followed, so long as we're accommodating students who are high risk. I think
Okay.
that's our duty. And I do feel some concern that, for instance, we are in an environment that still mandates mask wearing on our school property, and that policy is not being implemented right now or overseen and enforced. And so that doesn't instill a lot of confidence for families that have high risk. And this is concerning for me, because when we are promising to take someone's child who's high risk and that we'll take care of them, we need to demonstrate that we will pursue and follow the policies that we have set for them.
Okay.
And this is concerning.
Well, it sounds like Mr. Spino and the administration will work to make sure that all students are safe. And if it sounds to me, and if I'm incorrect, I'm assuming that someone will correct me. It sounds to me like if any parent has a concern, that they can go to their principal, the nurse of their school, and ask. Am I correct in that?
That's the way our schools operate,
Okay.
absolutely.
Thank you. So, thank you. Any other board members who would like to speak before we open this up to the public?
I would like to say something.
Okay, thank you.
I'm glad you're all here.
Can you, your name?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Lana Dever, Brattleboro. It's nice to see you all here. It's nice to see you passionate about our schools. And the reason this forum has been called is for that very reason. So when the announcement was made to the board on Tuesday, we received an overwhelming amount of emails, folks at the board meeting who were very upset from your friends, your family, your classmates. And just the way that we would respond to you if you came to us, we needed to respond to them. And I hope that as you raise your voices and as you think about each other and you advocate for yourselves, that you also think about those parents and teachers and children that we responded to. We are not here because I want to take away your masks. We are not here because I want to say, wear your mask. We are here because your community wanted to know how they would be held and if their students would receive an education just like everybody else. And that has to matter. I'm not seeing a lot of compassion in this room, and it really has to matter. I have a 10-year-old. I had a 14-year-old who had cancer. If my daughter had had cancer during this time, my life would have been ruined. As a single mother with a 2-year-old, I would have been screwed. I wouldn't be sitting here today because I wouldn't have been able to send my kid to school. And all I want for us to do in this moment is to hold each other close as a community and get a way forward. We've been here for 2 years. Can we just take tonight to figure out how to go forward? Not to mask, not to not mask, but how do we do it?
Lana, we have been doing that for 2.5 years, and we've been doing it well.
I have a very strange request for you. The folks on Zoom can hear nothing when the volume goes up too high. I understand people need to express their feelings. Can we do this instead? No. Okay, so just so you know, that was a request from the folks on Zoom that the volume
What'd you say?
down a little bit so they can hear you.
To respond to Mr. Spino, I hear you, and I also hear that there are a large number of parents who did not feel that way, and it is my job to respond to them.
Okay, I just want to say every decision that I just laid out from the beginning has been met with some level of criticism.
I hear you.
Okay? We followed the guidance of our health professionals. That has guided us, and it has guided us well.
And I think
Okay, I think we're going to adjourn this portion, and we're going to now open it up to the public. We have 2 mics here, so if people want to come up here, and we'll just alternate, but we also, I anticipate we'll have people on Zoom who will have questions, and we will all do some form of alternating. It looks like we have 2 people already, so if you want to, people have different levels of comfort in spacing, so just please be conscious of those who. And your time will be, appear to be a number of people here who might want to speak, so we're going to limit it to 2 minutes. And Sean will stand when you have 15 seconds left. Thank you all for coming to make your comments. They're appreciated. So, Jamie?
Hi, I'm Jamie Comtois, and I'm a parent of an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old. I reached out, I'm not gonna say my school because I wanna honor confidentiality with staff instead of publishing it everywhere. I asked my principal and school nurse how they have been consulted in this process because I got the information, and our family has to work hard every day to actually stay alive as a result of an immune condition that our family has had for a long time. And I'm not going to identify my family member, but it's a specific individual in my family. So I actually reached out to the school board and I said, I just read the guidelines, or I hadn't read the guidelines at that point. I said, I don't understand how this is going to be implemented for families that I know. We have 2 classmates that just gave birth. My child's classmates just gave birth. We have friends in cancer treatment. We have a friend whose daughter has to have blood transfusions on a regular basis because she has a bone marrow issue. I reached out to a number of folks in my child's class as it is, and the answer from the principal when I said, when my 8-year-old wants to be like his friends who are all unmasked, what's the adult in the building from 9 until 2 who's gonna support him? And I was told that is between the family and the child. The child will have to self-implement. The administration of my school has let me know It is the responsibility of an 8-year-old to self-implement masking that could potentially harm a family member. And I just need to understand there are many policies that we still need clarified. I was also told when we pulled our child out for Omicron surge that we could homeschool if we wanted. So that is not an option for our family. So the guidance families like ours are given with immune
Your
compromise
time is
not accurately being represented. We are basically at this point being told we have to figure it out on our own.
Thank you. Ms. Starr?
Sure. My name is Brandy Starr. I'm not used to facing this way, and I don't know if I'm supposed to say anything besides my name tonight. I've been serving on boards for a long time. I've been part of your community for a long time. I have friends on the board. I don't know Mark, but Mark has been the one beacon of consistency in my inbox. And Andy was too, just to be honest. I never really knew Lyle, but I have a lot of notes on a lot of things, and I don't find any of them to be necessary to say right now, but I do want to remind us that it is okay to give grace right now. This is some weird, scary stuff. I pulled my kids for Omicron, so did my partner. We run a blended household, so we have 2 Brattleboro schools and Compass schools in our household, plus 3 households. So we're always running with kiddos ages 7 to 14, and we have been on the very conservative side. So I understand the people who are more conservative. Yeah, let me just pull the kids because we had that privilege to do so. I'm also ready to be brave and take my mask off. I am a trauma survivor. I grew up in the foster care system and was institutionalized as a teenager, and I'm very well aware of how CPTSD can form over time and things can become really brittle. And I think that's what we're seeing right now. We are brittle. So please be compassionate with our friends on the school board and our neighbors and our administrators. You're probably going to leave here getting what you want, but we don't have to be mean while we do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul, is there someone on the Zoom?
Helen Rayo has the floor. Helen, go ahead.
Hi, sorry. I wasn't ready for that, but I'm ready now. I love that this forum is happening. It's a great example of the importance of civic participation. But the divisiveness in our district right now is evident from my kitchen. This is not what I want for my community. School board, you have a responsibility to represent the whole district in a way that brings us together, and to consider how your decisions will be interpreted and received. You need to build trust with this district. And the process around the decision-making around masking in the last week does not do that. Mr. Spino, you have a responsibility to communicate with the district in a way that brings us together, not divides us. School board, you have a responsibility to represent us in a way that brings us together. As leaders, all of you have this responsibility, and I implore you, I beg you to make this your top priority from this moment forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Anna Oliver. I'm a parent and a family nurse practitioner in Putney.
Can you speak in?
Sorry. Is this better? I'm Anna Oliver. I'm a parent and a family nurse practitioner in Putney. My kids will be attending Putney Central in the future, and I'm here as a concerned community member speaking on behalf of myself and my family. I'd like to thank the board for the care you're taking in making this decision and your concern for the health and well-being of all of the students in our district. Dropping the mask mandate at this time will put the health of students and families at increased risk because as much as we would like it to be, COVID is not over. Cases are down, but there is still significant transmission in Windham County. Even with the Omicron strain, COVID is still a severe disease with especially high risk to those who are older, unvaccinated, immunocompromised, or those who have health conditions that put them at increased risk. Every person here has loved ones who fit into at least one of these categories. Many people here likely fit into at least one of these categories themselves. The virus still spreads easily and quickly. While vaccines are extremely effective, like other safety measures such as seatbelts and helmets, they're not perfect. People with immunity from vaccination or previous disease can still become infected and can still spread the virus to others. COVID still causes chronic symptoms in a significant percentage of people, including children, even those with mild cases, and there are many unanswered questions about potential long-term effects of the disease. According to the Department of Health, in Windham County, 48% of kids aged 5 to 11 and 57% of kids aged 12 to 15 are still not up to date on their COVID-19 vaccines and boosters. Children under 5 can still not be vaccinated. Some students in the district are under 5, and many have siblings under the age of 5. And there's more and more evidence from research studies of what we have all observed over the past 2 years. Universal masking in schools still decreases spread. We should remember what exactly it is we're talking about tonight. We're not deciding whether families can gather for holidays, whether kids can have birthday parties, or who should or should not go to work. We are only deciding this: should school be as safe as possible for every child? Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello? Mic working?
If you come a little
A
closer.
little closer?
Yeah.
There we go.
Thank you.
I'm James Burke. I'm a student at BUHS. So we have here a panel tonight, and I very much appreciate this effort to hear the public's opinion on this, because sometimes, it can feel like you're just like sitting here watching a bunch of other people make decisions, and I really appreciate this effort to allow us to have a word in what's happening. However, I'm not sure. I talked to a lot of people today, and I asked them, like, are you going to the panel tonight? And a lot of them said no, and because they had jobs or they had other responsibilities they needed to attend to. So I'm thinking we are holding this panel at 6 o'clock on a Tuesday evening. There's a lot of kids who have jobs. There's a lot of people who live far away and have things they need to attend to, because not all of us have the privilege of attending. Not everybody has the privilege of attending an event like this. So I'm wondering, would it make sense, because what we really want is the public's opinion on this, would it make sense to send out a survey or a Google poll to the district and just find out what are people's opinions on the mask? Because I like democracy. I like hearing what people have to say about that. That's all.
Thank you very much. Paul?
Bob Tebow has the floor.
All right, thank you for listening. I'm Bob Tebow. I live in Dummerston. I have 3 kids in the system. I'm also a local school administrator in a different district. I've also served in the school board in Dummerston back when those boards were separate. So I have a lot of different perspectives to offer to this process. And I'm not here to advocate one direction or another. What I'm here to suggest to the board is that while public forums are useful in lots of ways, I don't know that collecting public opinion one way or another on this particular issue is really within the scope of a board's authority. I think that, or responsibilities, I should say. I think that building a shared mission and a vision and helping move a school forward, holding people accountable for those decisions, helping develop a budget, and helping implement policy are the responsibilities of a board. And that the board has hired people to run the schools, and that, granted, I'm biased as a school administrator, but I think that boards should let administrators run the schools that they've put in place to run. And so I would just caution boards against governing by public opinion. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you for your comment.
Hi, I'm Josh Unruh. I have 3 kids within the school system, 1 in Vernon, 2 here at BUHS. My wife is also an employee at Vernon Elementary School. As you all know, Vernon Elementary School did not follow the guidance of the district, thank God. They followed the guidance of the state of Vermont, as you guys have throughout the process. And over the last 2 days, my wife has come home with the glow on her face that I have not seen in 2 years. Of the happiness that the children have coming through the door and being part of the educational system again, and truly being able to see that friend's face that they haven't seen in 2 years. And some of our young kids that have never seen their face at all, to understand what your friend's expressions means so much to our kids, and we've taken that away long enough. And I agree with Mr. Tebow that it's time to stop with personal opinions. It's time to continue to follow the guidance and not let personal opinions guide this board, guide this school district, and guide our children any longer. One more thing, we talk about community. I've heard a few of you talk about community. The day you stop following the guidance, you turn this district into sides. That was your decision to do. I've been on many boards in this community. I'm still on panels for the state of Vermont. And what you did was wrong. What should have happened is you continued to follow the guidance and then held this forum if you so chose to do, which still would have been wrong in my opinion. Continue to follow the guidance. Don't follow your personal opinion or your friend's personal opinion or the person that you bring in to speak for you on your behalf. Do what's right for our students based on somebody's expertise, not your opinion.
Thank you for your comment.
Can I take this off just to speak? Okay. All right. I am Magdalena Keppel. I am a junior at the Brattleboro Union High School. And I was disappointed in the decision made last Friday of the sudden rescindance of the mask optional plan. I have spoken with a lot of my classmates. It's been a topic in a lot of our classes, just seeing how everybody's feeling. And I, among other students, were very excited at the possibility of returning back to somewhat normalcy in our school. BUHS has an over 78% vaccination rate, and that's myself included. And Vermont as a whole, vaccination rates are the highest in the country. I looked that up on the health department. That was a couple days ago, but I'm pretty sure it's still valid. And we are also reporting low case numbers in our county. So it argues the question for me, why are we now not as a community, not choosing to follow the guidance from the State Department, CDC, state epidemiologists, the experts that have studied this from this entire 2 years and who we've been listening to for the past 2 years? If we don't pull back restrictions when caseloads are low, I wonder if we'll ever be able to feel secure enough to pull them back. As a student, I feel like my education has been significantly harder with masks. It's harder to see people's expressions. It's harder. I'm in a Spanish class. That's definitely harder among just any other class. So I urge you all on the board to, while it's safe, take advantage of this. Take the guidance, go with it, and make masks optional for students and staff of BUHS.
Thank you. Paul, is there anyone on the Zoom?
Hi there. Did you call in A. Reed?
Yep.
Okay, great. Hi, my name is Alicia Reed, and I have 2 daughters who attend Guilford Central School. I want to start by saying thank you to all the school board members who serve our community, and to also the wonderful teachers, staff, and bus drivers at Guilford Central School who lead, inspire, and love my children every day at school. I'm a teacher in Massachusetts, a mere 20 minutes from my home in Guilford. I worked for 10 years as an early education classroom teacher, and now I visit many classrooms as a literacy specialist. I come into contact with over 50 children throughout the day. I've watched as my own school committee in Massachusetts has voted to remove the mask mandate, citing that they would follow the science and guidelines set forth by the CDC and other government entities. I've watched as many schools across New England have removed mask mandates as a result of guidance being issued by the federal and state government. And I'm saddened that my own children may have to continue to be forced to wear masks at their school while their families and friends in neighboring towns have gained the freedom to choose. One of my reasons for wanting to remove the mask mandate is that we have followed the guidelines set forth federally and statewide throughout the pandemic. I myself am attending virtually tonight because I contracted COVID 5 days ago, but have been advised to wear a mask or avoid public interaction for the next few days. I'm all about following the rules, but now the rules are changing. And I fear that our school community could impose restrictions not based on guidance from entities we followed for the last 2 years, but instead on feelings and personal opinions. If the vote tonight or whenever is to mandate mask wearing at our schools, that is a vote to ignore the federal and state guidelines. Lastly, I would like to share that I'm immunocompromised. I know many people who want to have masks mandated at school have given the argument that we should do so in order to protect those in our community. I'm standing up tonight to let you know that there are members of the immunocompromised community who want our children to have the right to choose. We want our children to laugh freely, play freely, smile freely. We do not expect them to continue to bear the burden of protecting us. The virus is still deadly to some, and I have a feeling it will continue to be that way for a long time. And those of us who are immunocompromised or have children who are immunocompromised will have to make personal choices to keep ourselves safe. Let's let our children be free. Thank you.
Christina Naylor, Dummerston. I want to thank you all for having this forum, and I want to thank you all for serving. And I am not here to weigh in on yes masks or no masks. I'm just here to give you my view as a former board chair on some of the process issues and some of the laws surrounding school safe operation. Vermont law gives school boards responsibility for safe school operation. There have been variations during the pandemic. At the beginning, the school board directed Lyle to close the school on the 16th of March at the board direction, and she thanked the board for that clear direction and closed the school on the first day it was possible. Superintendents in a state of emergency were given more direction to manage this crisis, and I really appreciate that our superintendents along the way and administrators and nurses followed the Vermont Department of Health guidelines. According to this AOE memo, school masking policy is the responsibility of the school board. And the proposed plan appears to vary slightly from the state guidelines by requiring a mask in certain circumstances. So I, as a nerdy policy wonk, wonder if the policy that's being proposed, because it's not directly following Department of Health guidelines, falls under the policy category, in which case Vermont statute applies. This memo says that the instructions could be given to a superintendent, clear instructions could be given to a superintendent to create their own policy, but I don't believe that's done, and I would interpret a clear instruction to be a vote of the board to give the superintendent authority to create policy. So if you're going to vary from Department of Health guidelines suggesting that sometimes people wear masks, I would suggest the board give clear instructions to the superintendent. I think a lot of these challenges we're having would be, as a community, would be improved by increased communications as a board. I believe the state had very poor timing in choosing March 3rd to implement this policy. There was no board chair for Mark to call. There was no way anybody could call a meeting for the following week. In fact, because of our district, you must call the meeting, you must know by Thursday that you want to have a meeting the following week, so the board could not take action to implement a policy. I believe if a policy had been implemented without that warning, without that public comment, it would have not followed open meeting law and Vermont statute. I thank you especially, Kelly, for taking the chair. This is a heck of a first meeting. It's a tough job, and I am so glad I am not in that seat. Thank you all.
Thank you.
My name is Joanna Terry Gabriel, and I have a first grader in Guilford. Members of the board, parents, community members, and friends, it's been a long last 2 years. We've individually and collectively gone through so much. As parents, we worked around the clock and in our sleep to keep our kids and community safe. We've lost friends and family members to the virus, as well as to terminal depression and to the ideological divide that has been almost as damaging. Our teachers and administrators have worked without complaint or expectation for any sort of thanks for their tireless service in keeping our kids safe and giving them some sense of continuity, if not normalcy. They've gone so far above and beyond anything that's been compensated for, but that's a conversation for another time. Like everyone here, I was blindsided by the decision handed down by the board after their emergency meeting Thursday night. I was silently sitting in on the Leadership Council meeting when the news of the board's decision to rescind the optional mask wearing came through. Reactions were mixed, but at that moment, it was shared by a Guilford staff member that when asked candidly, 16 out of 20 people looked forward to being able to take their masks off at work. That's adults. When I arrived to pick up my son, a good friend of mine was leaving work at the same time. I shared my frustration with her over the board's decision. In her words, she said, "You know, 2 weeks ago, I was still uncomfortable with the idea of everyone being maskless, but in the last few days, I've come to realize that most people in the building are either vaccinated or have had the virus, or both at this point. And I know that I have my mask in my bag if I wanted to put it on. But to pull this nonsense now, after the teachers have already told the students that it would be their family's choice after the weekend, to literally do this and then deliver the information as they're getting ready to leave school for the weekend, it's not just unfair, it's flat out wrong." When I got into my car, I was so upset. I was trying not to show it. Us parents have gotten pretty good at hiding our emotions in front of our kids at this point. As I pulled away, my 6.5-year-old shared his news with me that they were told that they were going to have to wear masks again on Monday. "How does that make you feel, buddy?" I asked. We talked about everything with our young one. He's very smart and often has a depth to his thoughts and opinions that surprise me. But his answers hit me particularly hard. He said, "I feel so sad, Mama." I didn't expect that. I'd expect that he'd say annoyed or angry or even frustrated, but when he said sad, I felt the tears stinging down my cheeks. Like most folks, when the select board rescinded the mask mandate in town 2 weeks ago. Okay. Well, I'll just rush ahead to what I said at the end. In closing, I'd like to offer the perspective that depression is also a fatal illness, that if not treated, often leads to premature death. In our town alone, we've lost at least 6 young adults to suicide, and one friend I spoke with said that that number was an unimaginable 22 souls, and countless more to addiction and overdoses over the course of the pandemic. Please consider this grave fact in your decision-making. The long-term consequences of our actions are unknown, and it's time to trust parents to make these choices with their children. We've got a lot of cleanup work to do. Please let us start today.
Thank you. Paul?
Amir Flesher has the floor. Amir, go
Hi.
ahead.
Well, first of all, I appreciate the decision to kind of hold off came out of a compassionate place, and that's important to remember. And I don't discount that at all. It's very important to have compassion towards everyone.
Yeah.
And the question that I keep coming back to is and some people have stated this, I just want to state it a little bit differently, is I'm not seeing what makes our community different than like this Burlington. I was just up in Burlington hanging out with teachers. They got rid of the mask mandate. It wasn't a big deal. Or basically most places in the state, the country, the region. Is the risk higher here than anywhere else? Is there some particular condition that makes us different? And it doesn't seem that there is. So it's just sort of confusing that you can start out of compassion and want that to be what guides us. And then I think we have to come back to reason and be like, well, you know, we're similar to most places, or actually even safer. The rates of COVID vaccination / infection are very high. There's a high amount of immunity in the community. So I think we can be compassionate and rational at the same time. And that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wayne Hoffenberger. I have a daughter here at Brattleboro. I'm a retired paramedic of 11 years. We send you guys up here to educate our children. Plain and simple. When it comes to parenting our children, that's our jobs. There used to be something in this country called common sense. If you're worried about catching something, put on a mask. If you're not worried about it, don't worry about it. That's the parent's job. Your job is to educate our children. That's what you were elected to do. Do your job, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dave Wheeler. I live in Dummerston. I have 4 kids in the school. I have a pre-K kid. I just wanted to, my point is that masking is not without a cost. It actually carries a heavy cost. And I think one cost that we may not be aware of for many years, because, you know, working in a mask all day, to those of you who do that, it is extremely difficult. And when the kids come home, the first thing they do is they tear that mask off. And let me tell you, that thing is disgusting. And I will tell you too that sometimes when we don't have any masks, you have to wear the same mask again. And you know, the pre-K kid, he comes home, he's 5 years old, he's in public school, he's not seeing any faces, he's still learning to communicate. Like, what is that is a problem. So what I'm trying to say is that not only that, I will also add that there are constant social emotional issues coming up between kids and students, kids and other students about masking, you know, being harped on about, you know, your mask fell under your nose. I coached the Dummerston Junior High team, watched them run up and down that court with masks on, just sweaty, and then running with the boys myself, getting so sweaty and that mask getting wet, it is not possible to breathe. I had to pull it off to breathe, to cheat. And then in the game, you know, refs harping on that, get that mask over your nose. It needs to stop. It's time to stop. The numbers are low enough. The numbers are low enough. And I will say, this whole time, we have been challenged so much as families to do what the state has asked us to do, and not always agreeing. But when it comes time for them to make a decision about something like this, I'm sorry, but the board, you guys aren't virologists. You guys aren't viral experts. They are, so let's listen to them, just like we have been for the last 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you.
My turn?
Hi. Hi, my name is Brian Hughes. I'm the father of 2 kiddos who attend academy school. I'm a doctor of pharmacy and I work at BMH as an inpatient pharmacist. The question, as I understand it, is if now is the right time to increase the risk to our children that both come in contact with, contract, and suffer consequences from exposure to COVID. In the early days of the pandemic, when this virus was relatively unknown, the risk easily outweighed the benefits. But now we understand more. We understand that the contractility has changed with variants, as well as the experience of having the virus. Prior to vaccines, our initial focus was on slowing, but not necessarily preventing the contraction of COVID, as we could not reasonably live in individual bubbles forever. But in the post-vaccine world, we now shift from pandemic to endemic, and that changes our focus from avoidance to acquired immunity. This comes in the form of vaccines for some, but natural exposure for others. At some point, we have to lower the masks. We can't wear them for the rest of our social existence. The question remains if this is the right time, and I believe that it is. With low local numbers, high vaccine rates, solid infrastructure for stay-at-home testing, along with an aggressive response to possible symptoms of COVID, we have the chance to use the precious few months we have left for the children to fully interact with each other and gain more than just immunity. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. My name is Jen Brodzik. I live in Putney. Before I say what I've written, Lana, I would like to let you know that I have extreme compassion for immunocompromised families like yourself, and I'm going to explain to you what my two girls have been through for the past 2 years, and I hope you'll extend me that same compassion. I have 2 questions for the school board, and if you could just let me go through my little spiel so I get it in my time, and then you could answer them. The first question is for the school board members who are for reversing the masking guidelines and overruling the guidance from the Department of Health, the state, and the district. Do any of you hold a doctorate in virology or epidemiology? Or is it your personal beliefs that you alone should decide what other parents must do concerning their children's mental and physical health? My children have not been able to attend full-time this year. We started out attending full-time at Putney Central because it was clear for my 5-year-old after 1 week and my 12-year-old after 2 weeks that their health and academics were suffering. The principal at PCS made sure not to accommodate in any way my 5-year-old with a shorter day once I saw my 5-year-old get in the car panting and breathing heavily and not able to complete a sentence. I asked her, what happened? She said, well, I was running around outside in gym playing basketball. 2 days later, the school had called me after a full week of school. She had thrown up in her mask, and I had to come pick her up. So that wasn't going to work. We asked him, can she do the academic half of the day that Sarah, the kindergarten teacher, had said would be fine? He said that didn't work for him. I said, can she do the homeschool portion of the school day? He actually checked with Mark Spino to make sure that he could legally deny her any education in kindergarten. So that's where I'm at with my younger one. I respected these guidelines as harmful as they were to my family, and we made this decision to take the financial hit in homeschool until the mandate was lifted. I promised my daughter, who had 10 days of horrible respiratory infection that was not COVID, and over 2 weeks, I got sent home 1 science assignment after repeated asking for schoolwork. So I said, I'm sorry, Lil, but this is not going to work. It's not consistent education. Time. I don't feel like I spoke as long as everybody else. I'd like to get out my second question, please. My second question is, what would you like to tell my 6th grader who has been following the guidelines for 2 years and is aware that the guidelines were changed? She was thrilled and thought she was going back this week. I didn't speak very long. My children should not be considered vectors of disease. There was a petition going around for either side of this, like the young man who said maybe we should get public opinion. I believe 51 people agreed that we should keep masking, and over 400 families said we should give families choice. Thank you.
Me or them?
You.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Rex Sheldon. I am a graduate of the VUHS class of 2004. Coincidentally, it's actually nice to see some familiar faces here tonight. It's nice to see faces for once, isn't it? But I'm not here to get everybody riled up. I'm here because I have 2 children who are 12 years old going to academy school. Both of them have had COVID. Both of them got through COVID like a rocket ship. One of them had 0 symptoms. One of them had a minor cold. We've all ridden this roller coaster together. Everyone made the choice to follow the CDC guidelines, to follow the state of Vermont guidelines since the time this started, and we've all ridden it together. The ups, the downs. Now that we're coming to a point where the state of Vermont and the CDC itself says masks can come off, suddenly we make the choice, we're not going to follow that. So where is the disconnect from we followed everything they said, follow the science, to now the science doesn't align with my opinion, we're not going to follow the science. This meeting here tonight is to, I don't even know if it's to decide or just glean some opinions, but if we push this back now, what happens in a month when it comes back up? Do we push back again? If not now, then when? That is my big question. And I want to raise one other point. Someone brought up the point that I think Ms. Green over here and somebody else brought up the question of how do we hold these kids accountable for the personal choice or the personal responsibility to wear masks. Now, we're not just talking about kids, we're talking about teenagers in high school. Currently, from my understanding, there is a movement in the state of Vermont to make it so that kids under the age of 18 can vote. Why is it that someone under the age of 18 can vote but cannot make the choice, the personal choice to wear a mask or not wear a mask? Doesn't make sense to me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, did you call me?
Yes.
All right, thanks. Hi, I'm Jess Earp. I teach at Brattleboro Middle School, and I have 2 young kids in the school system. And I just want to talk for a minute about the erosion of trust that kids have in adults right now. For 2 years, we've been making promises to kids. We've said, oh, in 2 weeks, you can go back to school. In a month, you can go back to school. Next year, we'll have a normal school year. Next year, you can have a birthday party. Next year, we won't have to wear masks in school, or we'll have a normal sports season, or we can have all of our fans at our sports games, or whatever the case may be. For 2 years, we have stood in front of kids and said, it's going to get better soon, just a little bit longer. And I stood in front of kids for a whole week and talked about how masks were going to be optional. And what does that look like? And how do we support each other? And how do we make sure that kids feel accepted to take their masks off or leave it on? And then I sat in front of a group of kids on Friday afternoon while it was announced that that decision had been rescinded. And it's not fair to kids. We cannot continue to make promises to them that we then break, not based on science. We've also told kids, hey, we're doing this because our state health officials say this is what's best. And they know best because they went to school for a long time to learn about that. And we teach kids, hey, you need to cite your sources. You can't just make arguments based on your own thoughts. You have to have some evidence to back that up. And we need to show them that we make evidence-based decisions. And when we've made a decision, we're going to hold true to it as long as it continues to follow the evidence-based decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lumina Contino, and I'm a student at Demerston School. When I go to school, I heard my teachers say that there's going to be no masks in a few weeks. And then the night before the day that there was no masks, my parents got a text that you still have to wear masks. And I don't think that's fair. I think as parents are driving to school, they should either get an email or a text from the teacher that they either wear masks or they don't wear masks. Because I don't think it's necessary that they get everyone all excited about no more masks and then the day after that, before that, there's still masks. I don't think that's necessary.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm Tess, and I'm a sophomore here at WSESD, and we've all been following the rules that the CDC has planned for us to do. We've all been following the rules. I myself am vaccinated, and and other people at WSESD are vaccinated, so we should be able to get these masks off as soon as you guys make the decision of when the time is right. Thank you.
Thank you. think we'd like to get through everyone having an opportunity, and if there's time afterwards, then sure.
I'm Haley Bristol from Guilford. It has been brought to our attention that the CDC has lifted the mask mandate for the entire state of Vermont. We are speaking on the behalf of all the students and staff members we have spoken with when we say that we urge you not to disagree with the CDC's guideline, as we are in the process of making the decision about what our school and the district will follow. We have learned throughout COVID that the CDC has the most information and science behind every piece of news they broadcast, which has led our families and friends to trust them. As far as we know, most of the school district students and staff members have trusted them as well.
My name is Cooper LaFlamme. I'm from Guilford. I'm in 8th grade at BAMS now. And we are prepared about why we have been following the CDC and all their guidelines all this time and are proposing to stop now. As students, we believe that kids of all ages should be able to learn and progress socially and academically without distractions of masks. The masks have done their job and kept us safe, but with the decrease of cases district-wide, we believe it's time to remove them. In addition, we were told that we could remove our masks by the 14th of March, and the day before we were told we had to re-meet and decide whether we are going to continue with this proposal. This caused a lot of frustration and anger after the excitement of being told we can return to school normally if the mask mandate is lifted. Anyone who has chosen to wear a mask further on will be respected.
Thank you for giving us this opportunity to state our opinion. We hope that you take this perspective into consideration, and we urge you to make the right decision for our district and community. Thanks again, Cooper and Cody LaFlamme, Macy and Corbin Kachuk, Haley and Taylor Bristol, me, myself, Charlie O'Connell, and my sister, Chloe O'Connell.
Thank you.
My name is Jennifer Sawyer. I'm a speech pathologist in this district, as well as the mother to 3 children in the district. At the beginning of this pandemic, they were at all 3 levels of schools here, one at Oak Grove, one at BAMS, one at BOHS. I want to thank Mark. I want to thank all of the administrators who have worked with many of you, in both my capacity as parent and as an employee in this district. I want to thank the nurses who have worked tirelessly throughout this entire pandemic. And all of the teachers in school, faculty, and staff. It's been a long 2 years. I also want to say that to the parents who stood up to talk about their children who are at higher risk of complications from COVID, that I am deeply sympathetic to what you're saying, and I hope you know that that is sincere. But I want to talk about another group that's been touched on a little bit tonight, but I think deserves some attention. It's a group that is historically marginalized and stigmatized, and that is adults and children with mental illness. And before this pandemic started 2 years ago, it was mental illness was an epidemic in this country. The rates of mental illness since this pandemic began have grown astronomically, and that's not my opinion, that is fact. The people who have been affected by mental illness throughout this pandemic are not at risk to be affected. They have been affected, and their health has been damaged. We need to move ahead helping these people heal. And one of the ways we can do that is by making masking optional. The great news is that we have science on our side. We have the CDC and Vermont Department of Health supporting these changes, and we're not going to do it in a way that is irresponsible. We really need to move ahead for our children and for our adults, for our teachers, and making masking optional. My youngest daughter, when I told her about a week ahead of this, when we thought she wouldn't be wearing masks at school, she had the biggest smile on her face the entire day. I haven't seen her smile in a long time, and that's worth a lot. Please consider people with mental health illnesses.
Thank you.
Hi. My name is Neela Ingersoll. I am a mother of 5. I have 3 children who go to Green Street School and 1 who goes to Inspire and another child in daycare. I just want to say that having children with autism It's been really hard with the masks, especially since my children need to see faces in order to, read people's emotions and learn to the best of their ability. My 5-year-old has struggled throughout this entire pandemic, being autistic, being a kindergartner, and struggling to keep that mask on her face, but also struggling to try to figure out what other people are trying to say to her. When she was told that she was going to be able to take her mask off, she was thrilled. She was going to get to see her friends' faces for the very first time. And when the decision to rescind the optional masking was made, she came home crying. Mommy, why can't I see my friends' faces? Why do I have to wear a mask when it's so hard? Why did everyone change their minds? I would just ask everybody to please keep in mind that there are special needs children who need to see faces, and the optional masking will help with that. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Beth Bristol. I'm from Guilford. You all have heard from me a couple times already, so I won't reiterate those messages in the essence of time. But I am here tonight on behalf of the Guilford Leadership Council to report some findings from them. 20 staff members at Guilford Central School were polled on Friday. 16 out of those 20 responded that they wished for masks to be optional. Some points that came up repeatedly: this is unfair to students, staff, and families to change now. Teachers are tired. We are all looking forward to this change. Teachers stand with the Vermont AOE and the CDC. If the CDC and AOE guidance changes, we will follow that direction. It is unfair that students and staff need to continue to mask while it is no longer mandated in the community. 4 out of 20 staff members responded that they wished for masks to remain required for the remainder of the school year. Specifically, indoor music class was mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. My name is Jesse Johnson, and I attend BAMS as a 7th grader. And I've had countless times where I have been focusing on my work and my mask slips down below my nose, and a teacher has had to tell me to put it back over my nose, and it completely disorients me, kind of. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lorene Reevy. I'm a 1st grade teacher at Academy. I also have 3 young children at Green Street School. And I've been teaching reading for 20 years. And one thing I haven't heard discussed with this matter is the adverse effects that masking is having on our students learning to read. One critical piece of learning how to read in 1st grade, kindergarten, 2nd grade is developing phonemic awareness. Children need to see mouths move. They need to hear and say sounds correctly in order to develop reading. And that needs to happen before 3rd grade. That is my primary job as a teacher. To keep kids safe is one, to keep kids feeling loved is another, and teaching them to learn to read, because everything rests on that. It is incredibly hard to do right now. 1/4 of my class is on an IEP for speech. They need their masks off to learn to read. 70% of my class is below grade level with reading rate, which is true for most early childhood classrooms in our district right now. Last week, I heard a board member say, if we've done it for this long, what's 2 more months? I can do a lot in 2 months. All teachers can do a lot in 2 months. I also feel like it's important for the board to know teachers are exhausted. We have done, many people have said, we've done so many things in the last 2 years. What's incredibly hard is motivating and engaging 20 children at a time with our face covered. We want them to feel loved and secure so they can be successful, so that they can learn what they have to. And in 2 months, we can do that. I'm very concerned with the academic, adverse effects that masking's having on academics, and those will be long lasting. One other thing that I want to say is that as we look at making this decision, I think we need to learn a little bit more about reading development and the importance of phonemic awareness.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm getting cues from the crowd. Hi, I'm Lisa Ford. I have sat on a school board for this school district before it was merged, but I have sat on a school board. I'm also a board director, a board chair of the Boys and Girls Club in Brattleboro, where we do have to make decisions on COVID guidelines, following the Vermont Department of Health. And I want to say that I'm really surprised from this board that you haven't made a public apology around how this process went. I'm really floored. If I, as a board chair, undermined my executive director in public like you did, they would ask me to resign. And I think some of you should. We've lost all trust in you as board members. The way this was handled was so traumatic to children, to staff, and to our community. I hear from you very often that you're thinking of the humanitarian way of being, that we want to hear from everyone. This was really harmful. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm London and I attend BAMS. I wanted to say what the board did was really not fair because we've heard of this for 3 weeks straight, and then at the smack right end of it, there's just some type of, we can't do it anymore. And it is very traumatic. And I can tell you right now, as a student, we feel rage for this disrespect. I will still respect people who wear masks. I just think we need to drop the requirement, personally, because it's just very emotionally damaging us as students. But that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. There doesn't seem to be anyone in Zoom, so.
Hi, my name is Eric Liberdoni, and I've been teaching and coaching in this district for 16 years since I got out of college. I have a lot of opinions on this, but I'm not going to share those. I think I like to deal with facts and truths. The first thing that Paul Smith did when he tried to quiet us down was take his mask down so we could all hear him. That is what happens every single day in every single classroom, in every single school, on every ice surface, basketball court, baseball field, whatever it is. The class cannot hear you. They can't hear each other. They can't read each other's facial expressions. As a staff, we go to faculty meetings every Tuesday morning. We spend 90% of our effort on the 25% of the kids who struggle the most. That is a fact. That's what we spend our time on. We talk about developmental designs, and the number one piece of that is relationships. The fact that kids cannot see each other, I can't read their body language, they can't see emotions, reactions, it damages relationships between teachers and students, and all of the parties in the room are suffering, and the thing that's suffering from relationships not happening is their academic performance. I've been in this district teaching for almost 2 decades now, and our students are so far behind. Okay, and I'm so proud, first of all, of how many of my students and players are here tonight, so I applaud them. But we are constantly just working against ourselves. We meet about trauma. We meet about relationships. We meet about our SEL days. We spend a half of a day every Wednesday on social emotional learning, and then we can't even watch each other smile while we're socially emotionally learning, having fun with each other. A kid doesn't know if I'm smiling, if I'm frowning. I coach my own daughter in hockey. I thought she was bawling one day. She's 7 years old. I went over and she was smiling and happy. And that's a person who I've lived every day with her entire life. Kids in my class, there are some who I would not recognize in public. I don't even know what they look like. I don't know what their happiness, their sadness is. And math is the most frustrating class for most kids. And for me to not know where they're at emotionally makes it almost impossible for them to enjoy that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Bethany Ranquist, Brattleboro. I have a couple of things, and I took notes on my phone, so I apologize that I'm holding that up. First of all, I'm just going to ask, I started this meeting on Zoom, and I recognize that for those that are on Zoom, it's really hard to hear what's happening when there's clapping. So regardless of whether you like or don't like what I'm saying, if you guys don't mind waiting to clap until I'm done, then feel free and I'll bow. So that's number one. Second, I also wanted to say I really love seeing this amount of participation, both on Zoom and here. And I wanted to remind everybody that the school board does meet every 2 weeks on Zoom and in person. Please feel free to come out because there's a lot more issues other than just masking that you would probably love to learn about. Now that that PSA is done, what I would like to say is I am not actually going to give an opinion on the mask issue. I'm up here for a different reason that I have not heard very many people talking about. I'm not going to give you a strong opinion either way. What I want to say is that I work after school in one of the elementary schools in Brattleboro, and I'm in the building every single day and have been every single day. And I have never, in my 6 years of being in that building, seen so much burnout and exhaustion on the part of the staff, the teachers, the administrators, the nurses. And I just want to point out for people that don't know that when we were doing testing in the fall, the administrators and the school nurses spent literally every single weekend, all day, both weekend days, doing contact tracing. And I'm not saying that because masks are good or bad. I'm saying it because I think that the number of shout outs that they get and the amount of ignoring that we're doing of the people who are the stakeholders in this has been woefully inefficient. And I just want to say that I guess I'm taking my time so that I can offer that shout out to the administrators and the nurses and staff in all the schools, also to the administration in the superintendent's office, and then especially to the teachers. I just want to say that they've been modeling and enforcing for 2 years wearing masks and reminding kids to pull their mask up, and that's exhausting. If I can just have one more minute, not even a minute, just 30 seconds. It's exhausting, and I think that teachers have not, I know we're all saying yay teachers, but they really have not gotten the kudos that they deserve. When I'm done, feel free to cheer. I won't bow, but I'd love the teachers to get a cheer for that when I'm done. My only question that I have is that I'm wondering if teachers are going to have to enforce any masking or non-masking of kids when it becomes optional, and if they've been made aware of that. And then my very last thing is that I feel like we've trusted our schools, administrators, and teachers for all of our children's lives that they've been in school. And I just want to give a huge shout out that they've done a phenomenal job for 2 years with this. And I don't see any reason why we shouldn't trust that they're going to make the best decisions for our students going forward. Thank you. You can cheer for teachers now.
You have the floor.
Thank you. My name is Gordy Baldwin, and I am with Campus Safety here at BUHS. And I can tell you that the kids are exhausted. The kids are behind, and they're not behaving very well. We have to up our game. But my question for the board, or my observation for the board is, You hired every one of these administrators behind you. I've worked with every one of them except for Mr. Spino, but I sold him my house. And I won money from Mr. Rucker with a 50-foot putt. I wonder why you have gone with the science from the AOE, the Vermont Health Department, CDC, and we have followed that guidance every day since this pandemic started, except for 2 days, yesterday and today. That doesn't seem right. And all these people that are behind you are talented. Like I said, I've worked with every one of them. They know what they're doing. Why micromanage this? They are doing a wonderful job, and this is not fair to them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Hi, I'm Tony Powling, and this is my first board meeting ever. I have raised 7 children. I have 10 grandchildren. I'm here because of my grandchildren that they came home crying the other day because they were told that Monday, no more masks. It's like, you have to keep wearing your mask. And I keep hearing people say, you know, my mask needs to stay on, that everyone else is because of the immune compromised. The principals, the nurses, everybody know those children. We do not need an IEP for those children. Those children are already known to need to have a mask on. It was mask optional starting yesterday. So I hope this board does not take another week to make your decision. If not, the parents should take it in their own hands, let their children go with no school, you know, no mask, and there you go. You're gonna send every child home, and the parents need to say, no, I'm not coming to pick them up. Teach my children with no mask. The ones that need a mask, keep it on. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul?
Hi, I'm Lily Brodzik. I'm a 6th grader at Putney Central School, and I was wondering, how is it fair that all of the other schools don't have to wear masks, but our schools still do? It just doesn't make sense. Last year I was completely remote, but in the beginning of this year I started out full-time at Putney Central School. After 2 weeks of school, I got sick, and we had to wait 2 weeks. And during that time period, I only got 1 assignment from my science teacher. So my family decided to homeschool me. When I heard that masks might be lifted at my school, I was thrilled and so excited to see all my friends. But then it didn't happen. And I thought to myself, it's not fair. Everyone else doesn't have to wear masks, but my school does. The whole country is being unmasked. Why do we have to be masked?
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Faith Copperthite, student at BAMS. And I feel like wearing masks is taking up most of our class time because it's always like pull your mask up or you're not wearing it correctly and stuff like that because like it's important. But I also feel like it's starting to like hurt the kids emotionally because it's hard to breathe and like, you know, it's also like very stressful for the kids and it's hard.
Thank you. Paul?
Hi, my name's Emma Sheldon, and I'm a local clinical mental health counselor in our community. And first, I just wanted to say that I really hold so much empathy and compassion to the families that are experiencing fear around their kids not wearing masks in schools, that I don't want anyone to think that there's any lack of compassion or empathy here. But I really wanted to make the board aware of the fact that one of the main indicators and markers for severe trauma and major mental illness is a lack of choice. And when someone does not have choice in a situation, it becomes trauma, and then it becomes someone that I see in my office. And right now, I have had a wait list for 2 years, and I'm not able to make referrals to any of my colleagues because of the amount of people in our society that are looking out for help right now. So that's one point. The other piece is I feel like there's an abuse of authority that's happening and an unethical decision that was made by the board to even hold this meeting in the first place. I had heard that this was based on a decision by 10 people showing up to the last board meeting expressing concern about, and maybe that's inaccurate information, but I do feel that if I had shown up back when the board made the decision to mandate masks with 10 of my friends or however many friends to say that I didn't agree with that a public meeting or a public forum would not have taken place, which speaks to the fact that someone on the board has personal opinions about this and that personal opinions are coming in. And as a professional, that's unethical. And so I don't believe it's the board's decision to even make this decision about masks being optional. It's up to the school board.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Cyrus Smith. I'm a sophomore at BUHS. I'm like your typical average A student. I'm almost every stereotype under there. But this year, I decided I didn't want to go to class anymore. I started skipping and my grades started to drop, and I even had a few failing grades for a while because I just didn't find that school mattered anymore. And there was distrust between me and the teachers and the administration because I didn't feel the connection between me and adults anymore. I didn't feel connection between me and my fellow students. There were sides and there were like silent wars between all of us. There are even divisions in my own house where we can't really talk about certain topics because we're scared. And I've been sitting here basically having a small panic attack because this is scary. There's so many different opinions and feelings and different ideas based on what's fact and what's not, and it is scary. But I got up here to share my opinion and my voice because I think it really matters, because every voice matters. And I just wanted to let you guys know that it's really hard, and we're all been dealing with things that are really hard, and it's hard on both sides, and everybody here is human, and we need to remember that and keep that in mind because we're all going through severe emotional things, but we kind of have to think about how those emotions are affecting our decisions. Because emotions often are the reasons we make decisions.
Thank you.
My name's Jessica Nelson, and I'm a resident of Dummerston, and I have 2 kids at the Dummerston school. And I understand that that people are upset about how this process rolled out, but I understand the purpose of this forum is to get understanding of the sense of public opinion. So I'm going to speak to that. I've been really surprised to hear that no one has really spoken to the fact that we have an entire population that is still not eligible to be vaccinated. And this population is in our schools. We have pre-K programs with 4-year-olds. We have students who have siblings that are under the age of 5. I believe that we need to give everyone the option of a baseline level of safety if that's what their families choose to do, and vaccines off, allow them to have the option to be vaccinated if that's what they want to do. So I'm in favor of us keeping a mask mandate until May 1, when our youngest community members will likely have the option to have some level of safety so their families can breathe easier. I can tell you families with younger children have felt really forgotten during this pandemic as everyone has moved on, unmasked, taken away a lot of precautions when we still have children that can't have a base level line of safety, and especially those with immune compromised systems. So I just want us to still keep that in mind, that we have an entire population that still can't necessarily navigate around this world safely.
Thank you.
Hello, can I talk?
Thank you. My name is Eli Gould. I have 3 kids in public school here, and my wife and I both went to this school and have both served on boards, and she's also worked in the school as a school nurse. So we're here with 2 years under our belts of safe rule following, and I think we also need to point out some really professional level of the people who have served behind you. I know there's a lot of new board members and a lot of new people here, and I think the underlying professionalism in this administration is beyond. It would take you a while to catch up with what's already going on. I'm going to use one non-social example here, in that about 3 or 4 years ago, there was a program called Clean Air for Classrooms, and I think we're really over-focusing right now on the social dynamics, which is important. I think you guys are doing a good, compassionate job listening to your community, but it's not to be confused with all the risk factors that make this place safe or all the ways to address that. And the ventilation work done by not only this state is unique, but this district is really unique. And I want to call out Frank and Mark, both in their prior roles, bringing in ventilation standards to schools before there was a pandemic. This was about absenteeism and health and teacher health. And to see that being done, to see that technical, to climb around inside of ducts with them and their facilities guys figuring this stuff out. And then when the pandemic hit, Frank saying, well, I think we have a little more funding for this Clean Air for Classrooms. Can we mobilize and look at this? And to see contractors, volunteering, administrators in a time when it was really looking dangerous to even be there, and then moving federal public money to make that work done. I just think beyond all the social stuff, these guys are pros. You should have given them a lot more than you have so far, and I think you really need to mend where you stand as a board with a lot more knowledge about the expertise behind you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Madison. I go to BAMS as an 8th grader. This is probably my first year that I have not been able to see any of my friends without actually their whole faces. It's kind of depressing for me because when you can't see that whole face, all you see is the eyes up. You can't tell how they're feeling about what you said or whatever. And it is kind of hard to tell what they're feeling. And I also want to point out that during our SEL days, it's really hard to come up with an activity that we have that is helpful for the guidelines that we have to still follow. And it is really hard for the teachers too, to make sure that we're spaced out enough or we have our masks up. And I really appreciate the teachers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, hi, my name is Deb Patnow. I have been teaching for 35 years. I have been 25 years at Vernon Elementary School. And because of Act 46, we were able to go unmasked starting yesterday. And I just want to say that the excitement of kids seeing each other's faces, of teachers seeing what kids actually looked like. We had kids who told us Sunday night, after Sunday night, they couldn't sleep Sunday night because they were so excited to go to school Monday without masks. I understand everybody's fears, but I really feel that we need to get back to a normal, whatever normal is. And if the CDC is saying that we can do this, I think we should do this. And if everybody could see their kids' faces, you would have such excitement. There might be a point where we have to go back to masks, and I've told my students that, but I wish, and I'm going to ask Brattleboro School Board to at least go back to what the CDC says and then follow what happens after that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Thad Sawyer, and I'm a junior at BUHS. I don't really love public speaking, so I'm going to try to keep this short. But I just wanted to come up here and build on something my mom said earlier. My little sister, who is going into middle school next year, hasn't had a normal year of school since 3rd grade. The mask mandate in schools was set to when the mask date, the day the mask mandate in schools was set to be removed was probably the happiest I've seen her in that time period, those last 3 years. And when Word Friday came that we were going to go back on that, she was on the verge of tears when I came home. And, you know, I'm not going to say I always get along with my siblings, but that's something as a big brother to her, that's really hard for me to see, just somebody who hadn't been happy in a very long time to just be that sad again. I really want to say I hope the school board takes into account, especially all students and the emotions that have gone into these decisions, the back and forth of it, and especially those who can't really get up here right now. Maybe they're too young or another reason that can't represent themselves in their own opinions, because there's definitely been a lot of sadness over this whole decision. I just think that needs to be especially considered. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Brandy, and I have 2 children. I have one that just started 9th grade. She doesn't know any faces to her teachers. I have a 1st grader, doesn't know a single face to her classmates, doesn't know a single face to her teachers. Is that fair to them? No. Do they have a choice? Not at this point. They had a choice on Tuesday when it became optional. They were more than excited. Friday came, I had to tell them, sorry, but your choice has been taken away. I've raised my children to have a voice, and they can't be here tonight due to school activities that need to happen. But their voices matter. All these children's voices, they matter. And you guys have taken that away from them for the past 2 years to keep them safe. Why don't you let the administratives do their work? They've followed CDC, AOE, everything. They followed them all. Why take that away from them now? What is the excuse? There's no excuse. Let them keep following what they've been doing. Let them make the decisions like they have been. My daughter, 9th grade, she has got mental illness for depression, social anxiety, everything, because she cannot socialize the way she should be able to socialize. My 1st grader, Mama, why can't I see my friends' faces? Over vacation, this is the happiest I've seen my kids in 2.5 years. They got to see their friends' faces without a mask. They got to participate with their friends because they were able to. They haven't been able to see their friends' faces 1st year in high school, 1st year in school. They have no idea what their teachers' faces look like. My youngest has a speech problem. How is that going to get fixed when she cannot see her teachers' faces? She cannot read nor see her speech specialist's mouth to learn to correct her speech. IEP plans are not being followed because teachers need to keep their distance. How is that benefiting the students? Thank you.
Thank you.
Did someone call me? My name's Erica, and I work at Green Street School in the STEP program. We, as educators, have had a struggle the last 2 years. And especially in the STEP programs in the elementary schools in Brattleboro, we have seen an uptick in the behaviors, as all schools have. However, it is very challenging for us to try and get a child who is dysregulated back to regulated behavior when we're constantly fighting over a mask. It's a battle we have to choose, and sometimes it's one at this point in the game that shouldn't have to be fought on a daily basis. It's only hurting the children and their education when they're pulled out of class because they can't control a behavior because we're focused on a mask. They can't breathe. They can't talk. It's hard for them. That turns to us with the behaviors. And it just is at a point where I think it really honestly needs to be optional for people. People need to be able to choose. It's time for us to choose what's best for us and our children. In education, it has been tricky. We've done it and done it well, but it's time to let us be the ones to choose if we want to wear a mask or not. And let's hope that this will help the children's behaviors to turn around when they can actually have a voice and have the option of wearing one or not.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Bob Gammon, resident of Brattleboro. Also have a student in the BUHS. I just wanted to take a minute to personally thank Superintendent Spino and his entire leadership staff for providing some great leadership in what could be best be described as a very difficult time. The hardest part tonight for me is sitting there in the middle row, and we listened to Miss Green earlier start off with a couple of opinions and an agenda, and yet I've sat here while everyone else talked, and you've spent at least 60 to 70% on your phone.
Okay.
You can at least have the optics of being interested in the meeting that you called.
Sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please remember to not address any board member in particular. Thank you.
I'm Iris, and I'm a 7th grade, and I don't have any kids, but I do have a little sister, and she's 6 years old, and she just went to kindergarten this year, so she's meeting all these new people, and like the jump from preschool to kindergarten is probably the biggest one because it's like actual school. So it's just kind of unfair for her because she's so little and so sweet and innocent for her not to be able to see her friends' faces. Also, for us in 7th grade, it's just, especially since we're in middle school and like everyone is so emotional and emo. So everyone, like, it really affects kids' mental health to have to wear a mask all day and not be able to emotionally connect with others. And it's not fair because most of us have been vaccinated. Some of us have even had COVID at BAMS, and we had to deal with all of the close contact and like not being able to see our friends in school because they got like COVID close contacted. And it's been 2.5 years that we've been doing this, and I feel like we finally just deserve to not wear masks.
Thank you.
Sorry, it's really hard to hear at home. Did you call on Chris Reed?
Yes.
Okay, great. This is Lucy.
I am Lucy Reed, and I am in 2nd grade at Guilford Central School. I think masks should be optional because I think some kids feel like they can't breathe. Another reason that I think masks should be optional is because sometimes I can't hear my teachers and friends. My last reason is other schools around the area have already chosen to make masks optional. I want to thank teachers for being so helpful and kind. I also want to thank the school board for listening. Please vote for masks to be optional.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Melanie Kahn. I have 2 kids. One graduated from the high school. I'm not going to use the mask word at all in my comments because my comments are directed directly at this board. I've sat on many boards, and I think this board needs to do some really deep thinking. I think, for one thing, this community needs to know ASAP, I just overheard it in the bathroom, what you're going to do from here. I think it's incredibly clear how people feel. There's no question about that. If you wanted to know community feeling, you got it. I am a huge masker. I was the queen of getting everybody vaccinated. I am no anti-masker, and you're making me look like an anti-masker. That is hard to do, okay? Now, the important thing is about board process here. I don't know who on this board thought about the optics. I don't think anybody. This is the same board that 2 years ago brought in a superintendent that they had to fire after a year, Andy, okay? They came to to Mr. Spino last June begging him to take this job in a panic. Does everybody remember that? He graciously left his job that he loved at the Green Street School to take this position to help you all out, to help our community out. And you know how you all thanked him? You offered him an interim position for another year 2 weeks ago. Who thought of the optics around this? Does everybody know that? He was not offered a job.
We can't speak about human resources.
It doesn't matter, whatever. It was in the newspaper. It was in the newspaper, okay? So he doesn't get offered a job, gets offered a 1-year interim position, and then he says, no, thank you. I'll go back to my job at the Green Street School, which I really liked, because I deserve, after this year that I've been through, to be offered a full-time contracted position as a superintendent.
The superintendent, the decision, hiring the superintendent and the superintendent search, that's actually with the SU board. That's not with this board.
I'm talking about the optics.
We actually didn't fire Andy. He resigned.
Okay, whatever. The optics is what I'm talking about. As a board, you all need to be thinking about how the optics of this show in the community. This does not reflect well on you. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Sydney Wheeler, and I'm in 8th grade at Dummerson School. I just wanted to quickly bring up the fact that as a student, I've been taught my whole life to to trust the teachers that are giving me an education, and to have my teacher sit down my class for a long amount of time and prepare us for the change of masking to optional masking. I trusted them with that, and I just wanted to bring up the fact that I think that there should be more consistency with the masking and the rules and everything. So yeah.
Thank you.
Should I go ahead? Sorry. This is Swift Deverty. I'm a parent in Putney of a pre-K student at Putney Central School. I am wanting to put another voice in around the concern for unvaccinated kids that don't have accessibility to vaccinations. It's seeming like we're not going in the direction of lifting the optional, making it mandated. But if we're going that way, I really want us to consider what we can put in place to protect our unvaccinated children, and what we can put in place, meaning more rapid testing. There was a number of options that were put out in the Putney survey that could protect some of those children if we're going forward with this optional route. And wanting to just make sure that if we're going this way, what can we do? What can we shift and change and make also optional, and put in extra supports for people that are needing it? Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sarah Rosine. I'm putting my third child through the Brattleboro school systems. One thing I'm not going to talk to is the emotions behind this. I think we all need to follow the facts and the science that we've been listening to. The CDC quietly updated the speech milestone guidelines from saying 50 words at 24 months to that expectation being at 30 months. That's after 2 years of masking. Yeah, 2 months of masking will make a difference for our kids. It's time to take off the masks.
Thank you.
My name's Allison Wheeler. I'm from Dummerston, Vermont, and I have 4 children at the Dummerston Elementary School. I sent a very similar letter to the board earlier today. You may not have had time to read it, so I'm just going to read it here. Reversing this decision put families and staff in a very difficult situation, having to give this news to their children at the last minute, and after significant effort and time was spent preparing them for this change. This inconsistent messaging undermined our superintendent and school staff and contributed to feelings of distrust in our school board's decision-making process for many kids and families. It is past due time for caregivers to decide the impact of masking and what is in the best interest of their individual children. Caregivers weigh the costs and benefits of decisions impacting their children every single day. There is no reason at this point for kids to be mandated to continue masking in schools when the rest of the community is allowed to make the choice they feel is best for them as individuals. The Vermont Department of Health has updated their guidance for safety precautions to be a choice and for schools to follow the COVID guidance for the public. Shifting to mask optional in schools still allows those more at risk or concerned to choose to continue masking to protect themselves. There are ways to accommodate everyone without taking the extreme measures of a mask mandate. We must rely on our public health experts to guide our decision-making in regard to the health and safety of our school community. Following public health guidance is not an at-our-convenience option when and if it aligns with what we believe. This can do as much damage as those who minimize the real impacts that COVID has had on many. I feel this board has repair work to do with this administration and the entire school community.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
My name is Max. I am in 3rd grade at Dummerston School. I respect the decision that is made, but I feel that masks should still be mandatory because COVID is developing a new variant in Europe called Delta Cron. It could spread to Vermont, and if it came and we weren't wearing masks, kids would be devastated. If they stopped wearing masks and then had to put them right back on again.
Thank you.
I'm Tammy Brown, and I'm a paraeducator here with special needs kids. And I just want to thank the teachers for their humongous effort to watch every day, put your mask up, put your mask up, put your mask up. It's tiring. And I work with 3 special needs kids that all have speech issues. And it's very hard for them they're very low functioning, but they're within the high school. They go to the cafeteria, they go to other classes. And they're very hard to understand with the mask on. And they also have, they need to see people's faces. They need to see your expressions to grow. And these kids are not growing. We have more issues in this school than just masks. The masks are a very small issue. And if you think your kids are going to be safe with the mask on, you're wrong. You know, we're all human. Life throws you things every day. Yes, this pandemic has been horrible for everybody, but I think that it's time that we started to have a little faith in what has been put out there by the CDC and all of that stuff. And whether I believe it or not, but I personally think that, I wear a mask all day. It stinks. I mean, the kids I work with, their parents, they have to wash their masks and their masks are still filthy. I have to agree with that. We sit in the cafeteria this close to each other every day with the masks off. Your kids sit in the cafeteria every day with their masks off while they're eating lunch as close as this board is sitting. These kids go outside with no masks because they don't need one when they go outside. So if you think keeping masks on is going to protect your kids at this point. And the school is getting very hot. And I don't know about anybody else, but I know I have to go to PE with these kids, and these kids are sweating, and they also have other issues where they have to go and take their masks off. So just, let's have a little faith instead of fear. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Justin Kenny, and I have 2 small children. I'm a local resident. I have 2 comments. One is, why is there not isolated learning for the immune compromised or those in contact with the immune compromised, but continue to expose them to the general population of the school? And I also would like to note that we could have 90% immunity from COVID, but we actually don't know, because there is all this weight on vaccines solely, which it's a human right to refuse, and we actually have no idea who has immunity and who doesn't. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Courtney Brown, and I'm the mother of a 2nd grader at Green Street. I just want to speak on behalf of the immune compromised and those who have children under the age of 4 or 5, because I also have 2 under the age of 4, and I'm currently pregnant, but I'm also immune compromised. And I agree with the masks being optional. Like, people who do want it still have the option to wear it. That doesn't mean that everybody needs to wear them. And I'm sick of people using the immune compromised and those who have young children to use towards their agenda. Not everybody agrees with that. And that's all. Thanks.
Hi, my name's Megan Clark. I'm a junior at Brattleboro High School. I was remote for a year. I have 2 high-risk grandparents and a mom who is also high risk in her own regard. For one, I want these masks off just as much as y'all do. It's safe now, but with the variant in Europe, it might not be safe forever. And it was the state guidance is that we can have them off, so let's just take them off. But if it's not safe, and it might not be safe forever, put them back on. Let's just do what's smart. Let's follow the scientists. That seems like everybody's best bet and what's worked so far. But right now it's safe, so that's kind of where I'm at. And again, compassion, y'all, please. What you said, perfect.
Thank you.
My name is Renee Walliver, and being with the W, I'm used to being last. But one thing I want to say is that this isn't Florida. This isn't a room full of crazy anti-mask conspiracy theorists. We are smart, we are intelligent, we do our research, we follow the facts. And I think it's time for this board to follow facts, not feelings. Follow the AOE, the Department of Health, the CDC guidelines. They are there for a reason. We've been following them all along. Put your feelings aside. It's about facts. My question for this board is, now that you've heard us for nearly 2 hours, what are you going to do?
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Bill Wilson, and I have 3 children that attend Academy School here in Brattleboro. And I'm really flabbergasted. I'm sorry, I don't even know why I'm here, because I think this meeting shouldn't even be happening. On Tuesday, your superintendent sent out an email saying masks would be optional in schools, following state guidelines. And yeah, I think this is a gross overstep by this board to overstep the superintendent and make this decision. This meeting shouldn't be happening. Whoever made this decision to have this meeting happen, there should be accountability for that, and that should be on the record. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jessica, and I have 4 children in the district. I have 2 children at BUHS, and I have 2 kids at Academy School. I first want to just acknowledge the fact that I completely respect that everyone has a different side and a different opinion on this. Just like everyone has a different opinion on religion and politics, and all of those opinions should be respected. I also just want to acknowledge that there are many jobs that need to be done here. A teacher's job is to instill knowledge into our children, into my children, to be successful in an often challenging world. And that's not even considering the pandemic. That is a teacher's job, is to teach my children. The CDC has a mission and a responsibility and a job to apply the knowledge that they learned from their teachers and to analyze the data and the science that keep our families, our teachers, and our kids safe, my kids. As a parent, part of my job is to teach my children how to go into the world and develop and maintain social and emotional relationships with their peers by feeling seen enough to show their emotions and be comfortable enough to socialize in difficult situations. The administration and Mark Spino have done their job. They have kept our teachers safe. They have kept themselves and their staff safe. They have kept my kids safe. I'm asking the board to do their job and to respect that this is the opinion and this is the general consensus of the people that you are here to serve. You are here to serve me. You are here to serve everyone in that audience. You are here to serve the administration and to respect Mark Spino and the work that he has done. And your job is to hear what your community is telling you needs to happen. Masks need to be optional.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Mariah Carney, and as previously said, I would just like to know how the board is going to move forward to make a decision. If we're no longer going to follow the Vermont Health Department, the CDC, and Superintendent Spino, then it would be really important for parents and educators and everyone alike to understand the process that the board is going to make this decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
If it's okay, I speak for a second time. This is Josh Hunter. I'm going to take about 15 seconds of your time. What I ask this board to do is set up an emergency meeting in the next day or two, going back to following the guidance as of Monday morning. If you don't do that, you haven't listened to us tonight. You haven't listened to the state of Vermont, so you probably shouldn't be in the seats that you're in.
Thank you. We're going to have to identify a time that we can meet and call a special meeting, and the board will have to vote to give Mark the authority to follow the guidelines. Would you like to speak to that?
So the vote just comes down to you? Is that what you're implying? Let's hear it.
We have to.
Yeah, yes. It has to be a warned meeting, and it has to be. There was no secret decision made. I made the decision based on community input. I made the decision to allow public input. It was not a warned meeting. There was not a quorum of board members at that meeting. I've been the board chair for a week, so you'd have to ask another board chair.
I'm going to repeat your question because I'm sure the people online couldn't hear it, or certainly on TV. The question is, why have we never had a meeting like this about any of these, any of the masking guidelines in the past? And that's because we have never had a single community member come to our meeting and say, I'm really worried about this because my kid's going to be in danger. I'm really worried about the possible things that could happen. We've never had anybody come before. They came and asked us to consider this, to listen to this. We tried to get information. We didn't get the information. Friday came and went. Kelly did the very best she could to get this scheduled as quickly as possible. And for us to act on any of this, we have to have another formal meeting. The earliest we can do that is tomorrow or the next day. That's the law. So that's what we have to do.
There was no formal meeting.
There was no decision.
There was no decision of the board. I made the decision as the chair. I made the request. I made the request to have this meeting.
People have to come to the mic. People have to come to the mic.
If you have a question, please come to the microphone.
Hey there. Brandy Starr, once again, Brattleboro. I have to ask now because I only wanted it to stay in compassion because I was hopeful everything would move, but now I have to put on my I sit on boards hat. Don't laugh at me. I'm retired now and I wasn't supposed to be here again. So if you made the decision with an unwarned meeting, I would never in my time, Kelly, I'm going to talk right now, and I respect you so much, but A, I'll forget what I'm going to say.
I'm sorry.
And B, no. With an unwarned meeting with one or more board members articulating an informal request, sorry, Mark, to use this word, to a subordinate, there is no way that that's not an imbalance of power. And it just doesn't work that way. I've sat in rooms where boards have pulled that specifically with women, and imbalance of power would have been cited right away. You cannot informally request anything of a subordinate like that, especially not when you hold a public seat, unfortunately. And I don't think so. I was on the select board for 4 years, and I've been on several boards as well.
Well,
as chair and vice chair on the select board of Brattleboro. So I know open meeting law in ways that I never want to again. And that this feels real bad to my internal stomach, and I conferred with my nemesis and friend Tim Wessel, and it felt weird too.
Well, I apologize if it felt weird. There was not a quorum of the board.
That's exactly why you shouldn't communicate.
The board
with
members,
a subordinate, you do not communicate without a quorum in a warned meeting. It protects you.
I guess I'm a little confused. Okay. We're not supposed to do what?
So, what you as a board are an entity. Mm-hmm. When you speak to Mark, unless it's about Mark being hired, which I know is a different board, that's public record. And if anybody is to formalize a request, it needs to be done through open meeting. So any number of board members that were not quorum, it's actually worse that you issued an informal request. It's worse. And the reason is because it can look like Mark had no reasonable way to refuse your request. It could be because Mark is nervous, or it could be, these are speculations, but these are real things that come up to Jim Condos at the state. So he'll come in and do board trainings, but you can't do that. And what it is Mark could say, I feel coerced, or I really wanted that superintendent position, or I really like Kelly and I need to be able to work with her. So I feel like my hands are tied, I have to say yes. And actually, you would lose your case because an informal section of the board, and David knows this, can't do that.
Actually, I think you're wrong. But
you always have thought I was wrong, but I've always been right. So, I mean, we researched it with Jim Condos. You've sat on boards. You know very well that an informal request to a subordinate is a real no-no. Peter Elwell would have told you the same. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm not going to talk about that.
Don't with me. We've already had our time on a board together, and we don't have those conversations anymore.
Did you want to respond to it or not? Did you want to respond to that at all? No. Sure. Sure.
Hi, my name is Carmen Winchester. I'm a teacher at Dummerston School, and I also am a resident of Brattleboro. And I just wanted to say hello, and I'm not going to get in the mask debate at all, but what I will say is this. that in the last couple of weeks, staff have been working hard in all of our schools, preparing students in the last couple of weeks about having the choice to unmask and what that means and how to respect everyone's decision. And this last minute decision by the board to rescind or delay the mask lift that Mark put in place was frustrating and stressful on Friday to again have to pivot and explain to children why when we actually couldn't give them a good reason. It was a gross overreach of the board, in my opinion. We all know that the mask mandate will be lifted anyway. In the school board's code of ethics to help make sure the schools are well run, not run the schools. That's the role of the superintendent. Making decisions that are personal without the whole board is a violation also of the code of ethics. And what I would like to see in the future is for our board members to follow the code of ethics, understand your jobs and appropriate process, and please come into our schools and see the hard work of our administration, staff, and students. Don't add frustration and wasted time to our plates.
Thank you.
So tell me what happens tomorrow when all these kids walk into school and decide they just don't want to wear a mask. What is the disciplinary action? Because I'll tell you right now, you better not be disciplining my daughter. We put you up there, we'll take you out of there.
Thank you.
That's what I was kind of gonna say. If we all choose to not wear masks tomorrow, are you just gonna give us all detention or ISS? Like, where would our education go then? Since it's not even there anyways now.
I assume that would be up to the principal to address that.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yes.
So my name's Jamie. I spoke earlier. I have not tried to cause any problems. I'm a mom who is concerned about, I got an email, there was no detail. I was told that we weren't going to have masks. I kept my kids home for a year doing remote. I had to take them out during the Omicron surge. I kept them home. I'm trying to figure out how we can, together as a body of people, work on public policy. I reviewed the document that you sent out, Mr. Spino. I did not see any mitigation measures that were going to protect my children. And I need to understand, when I called my school and said, I need to understand what is in place for my family. And the answer was, you essentially need to have your 8-year-old self-implement. So instead of us getting mad at you, I just called and said, can't we figure this out together? I wasn't trying to cause problems. I called 5 other families who are in blood transfusions, cancer treatment, and I said, I don't understand what our options are because I haven't had a chance to get any response from my administration in a way that I know that our most vulnerable children will be protected. I'm not trying to hurt anyone. I just called a bunch of people and said, I need to know what our plan is. So I just wanted to say one thing and I'll be quiet. I don't want these guys to have to pay for a group of parents who just said, couldn't we figure this out together? This board didn't vote. They just asked what we could do to figure this out together. That's what they did.
So how do I?
Just tell them it's out of order and to let the next person speak.
Okay, you need to let the next person speak, please.
I'm just wondering, I looked through a lot of the stuff on the school board website like a little while ago just because I found this whole thing interesting. Is there a way to see how people vote on this? And where could I access that information?
Yeah.
You mean the vote on the mask mandate?
Yes.
All votes are public.
where can they be found?
Well, we haven't voted on it.
I mean, but once you have, where can they be found?
Once you do, it will be in the minutes of the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, I've been patiently waiting online for like 20 minutes to speak. Can I jump in? Laura Chapman from Putney. I'm allowed to speak now for clarity. Okay, so having been the chair of a board, a select board, and having sat on a school board, I'm most disturbed by the process here. And from what I can see in the process, no actual vote and no true directive happened. So as much as it pains me, because I really do think we should wait a month or so, until little kids can get vaccinated and until we can open windows, I actually don't think that the board has taken any authority at this point as a board, and that Mark Spino's rules should stand. So it was one board member that went to Mark. That is entirely inappropriate if they were acting as a board member. If they were acting as a civilian, then Mark should not have changed everything for that civilian. So I have to believe that Mark believed that they were acting as a board chair, which is entirely inappropriate. You do not act alone as a board chair, you act with your board. This wasn't a Warren decision. It wasn't a discussed decision. There is no decision.
Thank you.
I'm Tammy Brown again, and I spoke. I just have a question. Last I knew, the school was owned by the town of Brattleboro. I believe the town of Brattleboro has taken the mask mandate off. I believe the state of Vermont has. And I also want to know is how we also live in the United States, which is a free country. And I just want to know is how you cannot make somebody wear a mask. I don't believe you have that right now because of the CDC guidelines and that it's been taken off in the state of Vermont. So I'm trying to ask you, I'm trying to figure this out myself. How come we have to, you think you can make us wear masks when you have no right? You have no right. This is my First Amendment rights, freedom of speech. And this is the freedom of speech that we have. We have the right to not wear a mask. If you want to wear a mask, that's great. I have no problems with that. I respect whatever your decision is, but do you really have that right to make us come into school tomorrow mandating a mask? Do you have that right? Because if you don't, then that's against my First Amendments in this country, okay? I just want to know that. So, and if kids come to school tomorrow without masks, yeah, what are you going to do? Because there's a lot of people. I would love to walk into school with masks. I walked into this school 3 days ago or Friday with so many people, teachers, they were so excited about getting these masks off and getting on with educating these kids the way they're supposed to do it. I bet a lot of you on that board don't sit there and have to wear a mask for 8 hours a day. And it's hard. I just want to say we live in the land of the free, so let us be free to make our choices first, Jane. Thank you.
Hi, we are BAM students, and this is kind of directed at Mr. Lyman. Sorry, Mr. Lyman, but if we don't wear a mask, what happens? What are our consequences?
I'm not suspending you, I know that.
Thank you.
One last comment.
Good evening, Heather Small Putney. I would like to direct the board's attention to 1 VSA 312. All meetings of a public body are declared to be open and public at all times, except as provided in section 313, it's executive session. No resolution, rule, regulation, appointment, or formal action shall be considered binding except as taken or made in such open meeting. Therefore, the board's decision is null. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. One last comment.
One more over there.
Oh, okay, one more on Zoom, and then.
Okay. I have a lot of people, there's a lot of people, my name is Cassandra Holloway. I am a town resident. I work for the school district with building a positive community. And I'm also a parent of a high school student here at the BUHS. And that doesn't really matter for why I'm here. I'm just explaining who I am. I guess a lot of people are questioning your process and I haven't heard an answer. And I want you to be able to say it without people ideally responding back so we can get clarity of how you feel like it was done properly, because I'm not hearing you responding to that. So that would just be my question. So I want to give you guys that time, and I really hope people can respect that. But I think it's very, it's board stuff. It's not our normal thing. So I think really being clear about how you think you did it properly, I would like you to have that time. Thank you.
So other people may have additional information, but on Tuesday, we were, board members asked for some additional information on how families at risk, students at risk were going to be accommodated, and that information was not available. The board asked for the information that was going to be put out to the public. The board asked for that before that was put out to the public. We did not receive it until end of business day on Friday. So from Tuesday to Friday and further, I'll speak for myself, I was getting many emails from members of the public who were concerned about how students were going to be accommodated if they were at risk or needed extra accommodations. So I made the decision based on those concerns that were being expressed to me by members of the community, just as I represent all of you here who it's pretty clear that you would like the mask mandate to be lifted, and I respect that. Those people, I represent them as well, and it was my responsibility to consider them as well. So I asked Mark, Mr. Spino, if he would warn a meeting so that we could have a public forum. And the soonest that we could do it was this evening. Unless we did it Friday night, which Friday was when I was talking to him, and there wasn't enough time. People would not have had enough notice. So we could certainly have done it Friday night, and people would have been upset because they wouldn't have had notice, or they wouldn't have wanted to be here on a Friday night. So I did it the soonest I possibly could. Monday was the Vernon School Board reorganization, and Mr. Spino was needed at that meeting, so it couldn't happen last night. So this is the soonest that we could have it. I was trying to address the concerns of the public. Thank you.
I guess I'm just asking, are you realizing?
Can I follow up on the statement?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I'll definitely hand it off to you next. Because I think people are looking for the direction too. So, I've been taking a lot of notes from what folks have said, and I really do think it's great to see such a cross-section of our community. I don't really like, the circumstances necessarily, but this is only the second or third time we've actually had this massive of a turnout. And I just want to take a moment, since I have the mic and I won't probably speak again, to thank especially the students, what courage that took to really stand up. And with such eloquence. So I think it's just, it speaks to their parents, it speaks to the administrators and the staff behind us, and themselves, obviously, as individuals. So I can only speak for myself. I can say that I'm sad to see that this process has unfolded like this. I probably think many folks up here also feel sad that this has happened in this fashion. And I know for myself, I just want to see a policy, either give a directive to make a policy or see a policy. Then in typical fashion, if this wasn't masking right now, we would see a policy. We'd ask just questions, clarifications, and then we'd approve the policy. And we'd warn it, take 10 days, and there's a whole process that goes along. Perhaps we can, push the process. I don't know what the legal, I know usually it's a 10-day warning. That's not gonna make anybody happy. I can definitely see that when people want motion tonight. I don't know what, maybe other board members know what the streamlined process would look like, but I can just say, I think, at least for myself, I just wanted to see a policy. And really that's the role of the board, is to make policy or to approve a policy or to direct a policy. So when not seeing anything, oh, can I only speak for 2 minutes? Oh, whoops, okay. Let me just do my last closing. I hadn't realized I was under the 2-minute thing. How presumptuous. So that process was overlooked, and now we have this, which nobody's enjoying. So hopefully we can figure out a way to communicate tonight to you what options we even have.
I guess the question is what was the policy before now you need another policy, other than following the state guidance? Because of why all of a sudden now is there a need for policy? I can totally understand risk mitigations and dealing with that. But I guess I'm just trying to figure out if you guys are realizing that maybe this didn't go right, or if you can articulate how it's right. And that's what I'm not getting, and that's why I'm back up here, because I understand what your intentions were, but I think you're newer in this position, so I know there's some older people on the board that maybe, meaning older in the sense they've been on it for a while. I just personally want to understand it before I leave, because it's hard to sit with it when I don't understand it. So I'm just going to stand here till I guess I get it. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I would like to respond to that if I could.
Oh, sure. Oh, I have some. Oh, go ahead.
I am older, and I have been a school board member for a long time. 2003 is when I joined the BUHS District 6 Board. This is the first time in my experience, so that's almost 19 years, that a motion like this, an event like this, has happened without happening in a board meeting. So I was very upset and very discouraged that it transpired this way. I've answered 80 emails since Saturday. And I just think that I won't say anything against the board, because when you were a member of a board, you have to pretend that you are one unit. But this has been excruciating for me personally. So,
I'd like to know this.
Yeah, Michelle agreeing again. Thank you, Cassandra. I don't know where she went. I was going to look at her. Oh, there you are. No, I want to speak too to that what I see the most is just been a complete disconnect of communication. I'm learning stuff sitting here. As I think Emily was just trying to relay, have relied on our administrative updates at the Tuesday meetings that we have scheduled and are warned, and it's listed what it's going to be. And we get to hear what the awesome work is that our admins are going to do. And then we pretty much say bravo, and it's great because it's awesome work. And this last Tuesday, this major change was announced a few days before, and we didn't have information. And I had questions that weren't answered. People came with questions that weren't answered. I found out from my children on Friday when they got off the bus that the board said that we can't wear masks. What'd you do, Mom? I had no idea what anyone was I was like, no, we didn't. So that was the way that went for me. And I don't have any problem with, and this is new, this is a really new perspective, and to me it highlights the necessity of, I think we should do universal board training in all 3 districts and work with the VSBA, because what Brandy brought to the table is a thought I hadn't had. My understanding was we all had our appeal. I was looking at communication policy. Like we have a respectful policy so that people get to learn information and ask questions. That's in H1, H2. So my expectation was this was a request, and Mark was agreeable, understanding, yes, we have a need. We're collaborating, and let's do it. I thought this was going to be an information session primarily, where people could ask their questions and speak to their concerns. And so it's sad. It's really sad to see this disconnect. I had one question, no agenda, because my opinion doesn't have a place here. My only question is, are we creating a safe environment? I didn't see anything in that outline that specified how we're accommodating. Sorry, I don't know your name, but you had mentioned, like you said, if you need to wear a mask, you can wear one. That's fine for older kids, but what about our 5-year-olds who maybe rip it off and they forget or it gets dirty? We wanted to hear that there were some accommodations. If there's mealtime eating and someone needs extra space, can they get that space? So I would just like to see that listed, those accommodations, so that those families have that security, that they will have the support in the system, that if they need space to eat their food with their mask off, that we're going to do what we can to help them, right? We want to help them, yeah. That's all I wanted to know, that's going to be in there too.
Hi, Kelly.
That's
My
our
name's
job.
Craig
Make
Miskovich.
sure the kids are safe.
I have 2 children at BUHS right now and a wife who's a teacher. I'm an attorney in town, and I do a fair amount of board governance stuff. So I'm going to recommend an off-ramp here. Because if you, Kelly, and I'm so sorry this happened to you, if you gave Mark a unilateral directive to suspend the policy, you can give him a unilateral directive to reinstate it.
My understanding is that I wasn't giving him a directive. My understanding is I was requesting.
Rescind your request and let him reinstate the policy. The board didn't vote to rescind the policy. The board doesn't have to vote to reinstate it.
Correct.
Does the board have counsel? Do you have the ability to call your counsel?
Yes, call your lawyer.
Call your lawyer.
Well, we'll have to contact him.
You didn't contact him yet? Call him now. I know Bob Fisher's number. Call him now.
Madam Chairwoman, point of order. Side conversations in open meeting are not permitted.
Sorry, I was asking for a clarification on if we could ignore ourselves.
The Vermont Open Meeting Law, the LTC provides great training.
I make this offer honestly in good faith.
I
want
think
you
you
guys
can
to
do
find
one-on-one in a
off-ramp
meeting. You
here.
just can't, it doesn't matter.
I really want to help you. I feel for you. This must be torture. And as a board member who has made mistakes myself, I want to help you solve this problem. If you gave him a directive, you can rescind the directive. If you made him gave a request, you can rescind the request.
This meeting was warned with no action.
Then don't take an action. You can do this. You have the ability to rescind the request.
We can't. Do we need to clarify this, do we need to clarify that since we're not adopting a state mandate, that it's, that it doesn't require, that this is okay, that the way it's this one we've done, that it's not that formal approval? Sort of what Christina Naylor was just speaking to about how to, I don't have the statute, and my thing died. Oh, maybe not, maybe I can get it on.
I think what could be, I mean, I'm not the board chair, but I'm
Lawyer only
thinking.
gets 2 minutes too, right?
I'm sorry?
Mr. Lawyer only gets 2 minutes also.
I yield my time.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, sir. Yes.
I haven't.
Consider this, please. I had no intention of coming up here and speaking tonight. My name is Jason Copeland. I'm a longtime resident here. And I feel for you and the decision that you had made for a small percentage of people. But there are a lot of small percentages of people right now, okay? I heard very little talk on the mentally ill, okay? I represent, I'm part of the National Alliance for the Mentally Ill. And I teach provider education classes. And I have Life 101 experience on abundance of things that are being discussed right now. And this has been very civil tonight, very civil. I came here for the drama. I'm sorry, I did. All right? Truth be told. And we had a point of closure about 15 minutes ago. I heard you can't really make a decision tonight, but you can make it in the morning. And you know what? Sometimes those robocalls go out pretty early in the morning. So wouldn't that be fantastic to get a robocall and say, there's a lot of things that you have to consider. And I really feel for those that expressed autoimmune and all that goes with it. But there's a lot of things going on right now. People learn differently. And this pandemic forced teachers, educators, especially the little ones, the educators that have their template down for years, and they were asked to disrupt that and learn Google Classroom overnight. That was not fair, okay? And then all the nurses and all that, it's just been fantastic. And they get it's a thankless job, just like your jobs are very thankless. Right now especially, you're feeling it. So I think we should end peacefully tonight, and you make a decision tomorrow morning.
I will say if it's within my power to rescind my request, then I will certainly do that. I may have to. I will have to check with the lawyer, and I will send a communication as soon as possible. And
Can I
if
speak,
that's correct,
please?
then it would be rescinded. Then yeah. I have an attorney who is telling me this, and if what he is saying is correct, then I would be rescinding. I'm not sure if the attorney is available, so I will contact the attorney. Okay. That's.
I think we have a speaker up.
There.
Oh, there's a board member.
There's a board member, I guess, on the computer.
Thank you. I'm not sure if Kelly can rescind this by doing so by herself, but I am sure that we can warn a meeting within a couple of days and take a vote then. I'm one of the more experienced parliamentarians on this board. And I'd like to say that I have been listening all night and I have heard every word you said.
I will rescind my request, and if we find out that it's not legal, then we'll go forward from there. Mary, are you sure? It has, but you are welcome to make a comment if that's.
We have a public
The request,
Are you
the
reading?
request has been rescinded.
I shouldn't say that.
I would just
Shouldn't say that
like
until
to
you know
say
from the
that
lawyer.
there are two schools in our community that have not had a mask mandate during COVID. Both of those schools, although private entities, have had much lower COVID rates. One of them is a preschool. One is the Prouty Center and the other is St. Michael's. They both had much lower COVID rates than the public schools. And I think that people who have immune compromised children need to consult with their physician and make an educated choice. And that is not up to us. It's not up to anybody other than the parent. And then it is up to us as schools to support that choice.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming. Have a good evening.